Hi guys, I'm Jada.
I'm Aaliyah.
This is Benny.
I'm Adelaide.
And today we're going to be talking about what the hell is going on. So, my topic is gun violence, and I personally believe that enforcing stricter gun laws will, in fact, decrease the amount of mass shootings that occur in America and just decrease the amount of gun violence in general.
So, what would stricter gun laws look like to you?
I would say enforcing, like, making sure people have in-depth background checks, like going deep into their background, and raising the age to buy a gun. Like at 18 now, you can buy an assault rifle, but you can't drink alcohol. Like America, you got to make the laws make sense. Like you got to get it together. And I also wanted to ask you guys, like, how do y'all feel about teachers being allowed to carry weapons into schools? Because that has been an issue or question that's came up.
I think that in order to allow teachers to have guns, you obviously need to have that in-depth background check. But if everyone's getting that in-depth background check, you don't really need teachers to have guns, because the people who are doing the mass shootings aren't going to have as much of an opportunity to get those guns with those stricter laws. But people always complain about like the funding and where that's going to come from. So I think that's like people's argument when you bring that up.
I feel like personally, it makes me feel uncomfortable knowing that a teacher I'm in the same like room with has a gun. Like I know we have SRO officers in most public schools nowadays, and it just to me I just don't feel like that's what they're hired to do. Teachers are here to educate children. They're not here to risk their lives to protect someone else's. Like that's not in their pay grade. They don't even get paid enough to do that. Honestly, if we're talking about the truth, I just don't feel like it's a safe idea overall. I know there's the aspect of protecting kids, but there's always the risk that teachers can use the gun to their own personal agenda. What do you think, Aaliyah?
I feel like it doesn't really make sense for teachers to have guns, because you have to think about most school shooters are people that actually go to the school and know the way the school works. And so if a student already knows a teacher has a gun, they can use that to kind of predict what they want to do to the classroom and how they want to navigate around the school and stuff. So I feel like it doesn't really serve a purpose for teachers to have guns. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I also feel it all ties back to the stricter laws that need to be enforced, because all of this would be prevented if we did have stricter laws. And I also wanted to mention that although mass shootings are the most publicized type of shootings, there are also other deaths that are associated with gun violence, such as suicides or unintentional shootings and homicides, people being murdered, not just mass shootings.
So what type of guns do you think people should be able to have, if any? Do you think that we should try to wipe out guns, or should we just have certain laws placed on certain types of guns?
I don't think guns should be banned in general, but I would say like weapons used in the military, like regular public, like the regular public and citizens I don't think they should have access to those type of like assault weapons used during war, because there's no need for them to have it, I feel like.
Gun violence is an issue that affects every aspect of society. One area in particular is hip-hop. Hip-hop being brought into the mainstream over the last 2 decades has made the genre an international phenomenon. With this rapid commercialization, the demographic of hip-hop fans has changed drastically. One thing in particular we can always see in today's society is a constant need for new styles and trends. Hip-hop typically influences many of these trends that we see now today. How do you guys feel about non-Black people using the N-word?
I feel that as a white person, I don't feel like anyone outside of Black people should be using that word. It was always used to oppress and to offend, that it should be taken ownership, like the word bitch or something like that. Like where you just take ownership of that word again and make it your own. And I don't think that white people should feel that they have any ownership of it, because it was never theirs to begin with.
I also agree with that. I just believe that in order to avoid all of the backlash that they would get for saying it and offending anyone, they should just not say it.
I agree. And I feel like a common thing that comes up with hip-hop music in today's genre is that white fans and white listeners feel like they have the privilege or the right to just say it just because their favorite artists say it. And I feel like that's a problem that needs to be addressed in society. Just because you hear Lil Baby saying it doesn't mean you need to be saying it too, And there's a boundary that doesn't need to be crossed. People as a whole should just be able to understand, or we should at least hold people accountable for it. But what do you think, Aaliyah?
I feel that if you are a so-called lyrical genius, you should be able to find other words in replacement to that word. And like you said, it doesn't matter if your favorite rapper is saying it, you shouldn't be saying it. Like there are certain boundaries that you just don't cross.
But the problem with modern hip hop goes way beyond the surface of just saying the N-word. And in order to understand, you must understand where hip hop comes from. Hip hop, in its origin, was created to be a voice for those without a voice. People that were oppressed, channeled their frustrations and passion into their music they made. And that's what made it so real and raw. And that's the identity of hip hop. That can't be taken away. Translating to the topic at hand, I want to talk about the way modern companies are exploiting Black culture and hip hop for profit.
Wait, so what do you mean by that?
Basically, these major corporations recognize that Black hip hop artists are creating cultural themes that are marketable and they sell. For instance, like the Migos. Back in 2015, whenever they first started doing the dab and were just beginning to start the buzz on an international base, they weren't recognized really in the pop community. It wasn't until about 2016, 2017 where they were finally recognized on a mainstream level. But then after that, their dances and their styles started being seen all over the place. And now you can find dances like the dab and many other dances that popular Black artists and entertainers have made famous in games like Fortnite and advertisements worldwide. But the problem is you can't single out the exploitation to one single incident. It's all over it, whether we realize it or not.
I mean, I had no idea that it was that big of a deal across the board. I didn't realize that it was in every little bit of marketing and media that young Black artists are being exploited and their dance moves or their just general culture is being taken away from them. I don't know about you, Jada, but I didn't know a lot about that.
Yeah, same. I didn't know a lot of information. Like listening to you, Benny, talk about that really opened my eyes to the fact that a lot of Black artists in their work are being exploited by different companies and just society in general.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. This was something I was really passionate about, honestly. And I'm glad you took something away with it. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We just had to talk about what the hell is going on.